Hi, everybody. This is Neil Allen, the creator of Zatswan Multiversal Guardian, the ultimate mixed race superhero. And you can read about his adventures for free on my website, zatswan.com. Um, anyway, I was asked about Green Lantern War Journal, this new comic series that's out by writer Phillip Kennedy Johnson and artist Montos, that stars Green Lantern John Stewart. Somebody asked me what I thought about it, and honestly, I don't read it, but I do have some thoughts about it, so I will talk about them here. And I said on my website that I was going to talk about John Stewart, the Green Lantern character in general, um, because some people know who I am, they know a bit about my history, and they know that I have some history with this character in particular and with Green Lantern. And I really haven't talked much about that in a long time. So I will, touch upon that and how it relates to like where I am now and what I'm doing right now. But getting back to the point, so about this John Stewart comic book, War Journal, that's out. I'm not reading it, and that can seem like a shock to some people because if they know my history, some of it, then they know that, I was a big Green Lantern fan. And I was a big fan of John Stewart in particular, though I know a lot of Green Lantern history um, in general, like about a lot of the other characters. I would buy these big, giant lots of back issues on eBay. Um, I had essentially every single major appearance of John Stewart in print. I had even stuff that you would think a lot of people wouldn't have. Like I had the complete Justice League Adventures comics and the JLU comics. I had his original appearance, um, the Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams comic in very good condition. It wasn't like a collected thing. It was the actual issue that came out in 1971-72. I say that because that was like that was a December, January type of thing. It was like a bi-monthly comic. So I had basically everything, like, yeah, every major appearance of him. The Green Lantern Volume 2 stuff that came out in the 80s. I had the issues before, the Justice League of America issues where he appeared for a bit in the 70s. I think those came out in the late 70s. They were written by Lynn Wein and drawn by, I don't recall. I mean, was that like Dick Dillon? Anyway, I don't recall who the artist was on those off the top of my head, but I think it was like Dick Dillon. So it could seem as a shock to some people that I really don't, that I'm not reading this current series, that I'm not reading it. But I will go into why. There's like a long version of that and there's a short version of that. I'll tell you the short version of it right now. So even though I don't read these Green Lantern comics anymore, I kind of keep up with things like on the periphery somewhat. I do stay somewhat up to date with what Marvel and DC comics are doing, although I don't read them at all. That's part of the reason why I'm not reading this War Journal comic. I just don't read Marvel and DC comics at this point in my life and don't really have an interest in going back. But about War Journal specifically, it seems to be getting good reception from fans online. The Phillip Kennedy Johnson stuff typically does, from what I've seen. People seem to think he's a pretty good writer, from his Action Comics run and onto this. I don't know personally. I don't know because I've never read any of his stuff. And comics fans, I don't want to sound like elitist, so apologies in advance if I do. But I mean, a lot of times I don't think their standards. Th- I'll just say this: a lot of times, like their standards and my standards, like aren't the same. They're very different. Like something that they can think could be really, really good, I might just think is like okay-ish maybe. Um, so, but what I from everything I've read, I am confident that this at least isn't one of these modern comics writers that's absolutely terrible, as a lot of them seem to be. Like for example, the run that preceded this one, Green Lantern, the 2021 series by Jeffrey Thorne. He was the writer. That was obscenely terrible. So I'm confident just from the reception I'm hearing that this comic is probably better than that one. And I do take a look at it here and there online. I don't read the issues, but I will like skim some. And from my skimming, I can tell you like why I don't read this comic. And it's pretty simple, and it might sound shallow, but I do think that this is a fair judgment to make, believe it or not. I don't know how this story is. It could be good. People say it's good, but all the same, I'm not interested in reading this comic because how many issues has it been? I think it's at this point in time of me making this video, I think it's been 3 issues in, and this guy, John Stewart, the main character, has been in a like button-up shirt the whole time. Where's the suit? Where's the Green Lantern suit? Um, that's why I'm not interested in reading this comic book. Honestly, it sounds funny, but let me kind of tell you what my tastes and preferences are. I'm here, like, I turn to a character like John Stewart, the Green Lantern, for superheroes. I turn to him for the powers. I turn to him for the adventure, for the chest emblem, for the colorful suit, for the alias like Green Lantern, all of that stuff. I don't turn to him for button-up shirts. I'm not interested in that. Now, before some keyboard warriors want to come after me, I'm the guy who basically advocated that this character, I'm the guy who basically started this groundswell saying that this is essentially an sort of incomplete character. And he has been for a while. There are a lot of holes with John Stewart that need to be filled in. There are a lot of things we don't know about him. There are a lot of things about him that we never see. And I felt that his personal life was one of those things that was really, really lacking. We saw him as a Green Lantern all the time, but who really was the person John Stewart? A lot of that we didn't see, we didn't know. What did he do when he wasn't Green Lantern? We didn't really know, and I felt that we weren't getting that sort of thing from Superman, Clark Kent, or Batman, Bruce Wayne, or even Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern, the other Green Lantern. We kind of knew more about those characters' lives and just those characters as fictional people more than we knew about John Stewart. So I was the one who really, I would say, more than anyone, kind of trumpeted that and kind of started that. For those who don't know, I don't recall if I mentioned it in this video at all, but I used to run a Green Lantern site as well. So I had an audience. It was a good site. It was well trafficked, and I wrote a lot of articles about this character in particular. And I had a platform. I had an audience. So yeah, I get that, and I think what this writer here, Phillip Kennedy Johnson, is doing is to try to remedy that some. The previous writer, Jeffrey Thorne, completely missed the mark with what the character actually needed. Like, more of the John Stewart part of the character needed to be filled in, and Jeffrey Thorne was doing this stuff about some power ascension type of stuff, and on top of that, it was a bad story. So I get where Phillip Kennedy Johnson might be coming from, or, with what he's doing, where he might be coming from. Okay, so the thing about it is that it's not supposed to be an extreme either way. Like one going one way too far is bad, going the other way too far is bad. And I understand it that Phillip Kennedy Johnson is still having some battles with supernatural forces and John doing, using powers and stuff like that. I get that. But man, you're like 3 issues in. I want to see a dude in a suit. Like I'm reading Green Lantern. I'm reading John. I want to see. No, let me put that another way. I want to see John Stewart in a suit. I don't want to see this button-up shirt. Now a cover has come out, which I think could be. I don't know what number issue that is. I really don't know. But I think one of the solicited covers for an upcoming issue has come out where John Stewart is in like a Green Lantern suit. I don't know what issue that is. It could be 4. It could be 6. I don't know. But I think for me that's too late. Too late. Let me tell you about what I did when I was writing Zatswan Multiversal Guardian and I was writing the first chapter of it. I knew by the end of that, it was like an origin for Zatswan. And again, you can read this for free on my site, zatswan.com. I'll leave a link in the description. I knew that by the first chapter of that thing, I had to have that dude in a suit. Even though I had to tell readers like who he was and I had to introduce this whole world, this whole concept, and this whole character, A.C. Cooper, the lead character of the comic. But I knew by the end of that chapter, the first one, I needed to have that character in a suit. And I got him there by the 16th page. He put on the suit. 15, 16. He was putting on the suit in page 15, got the suit on completely on by page 16. The adventure, like the big adventure, went right from there, and on to like tons and tons of explosive action in chapter 2, and so on and so forth. Now this guy here has gone 3 issues. We'll just sum it up, saying about 60 pages or so, at least. And this character has been in a button-up shirt. I'm not reading that. That's like, I don't know how good your story is. I at that point I kind of almost don't care. I'm here for I'm here for John Stewart for superhero stuff. I'm here for the chest emblem, for the muscle, for the skin tight suit, for the powers. That's all a part of why I read John Stewart. And an interesting thing, that's like a lot to do with the appeal of this character. And this was a problem that Jeffrey Thorne had too, because he had the character completely like depowered for like 4 issues or 5, something like that. And it's like, okay, I'm not coming to this character to read a depowered John Stewart. I'm also not coming to him to read where he's just in a button-up shirt the whole time. So my reason might sound kind of shallow, but I don't think that it is. I actually think that's a very fair judgment to make, honestly, because of what John Stewart is and why people go to see that character. I like superheroes. I'm not saying that I don't like other types of fiction, but I like superheroes. I unabashedly like superheroes. Like Zatswan is unabashedly a superhero. I'm not trying to weave something else in there where he's like, I'm not trying to get away from that. He is the skin tight suit, the colorful costume, the chest emblem, the powers, all of that. So that's what I want to see from John Stewart. Now, I also want to see the man John Stewart, but I don't just want to see the man John Stewart, just like I don't just want to see Clark Kent when I'm reading Superman. So anyway, I'm like looking through this comic online some, not really reading it, not even totally skimming it, just kind of looking through it. And so I'm thinking the whole time, like, when's he gonna get the suit? So I'm like, when's he gonna get the suit? Just went through the first issue, going through the second issue. When's he? I haven't bought any of these, by the way, and I wouldn't. And this dude still hasn't put a suit on. And I understand that Phillip Kennedy Johnson is cleaning up the mess that Jeffrey Thorne left. And I do think they're doing kind of a good job on that. Like Mr. Politics, Jeffrey Thorne wanted to make this thing where big novel idea, the Guardians were bad, and didn't want to just roll with the mythology of Green Lantern where the Guardians are these protectors of the universe. No, probably wanted to pull one of these things like, let's question that, because I don't believe in that type of that sort of setup for the universe. No, they're corrupt and they're bad and they're evil, and the United Planets from the Legion of Superheroes is like going to be running or like presiding over the universe. And first of all, that's such a tired storyline, but what I do like about what they're doing in Green Lantern now is they're getting rid of that idea, turning it around and saying, no, it's these United Planets that are corrupt as well, so we'll probably see another resurrection of the Guardians at some point. So anyway, what I'm getting at is that Jeffrey Thorne, like previous writer of Green Lantern, wrote a really, really horrible series and made a really big mess of the universe and the mythology, like when he left. And I know that this writer, Phillip Kennedy Johnson, is not completely disregarding that and actually working from it some, which is admirable to a point, because I know like these days a lot of comics writers don't do that at all. They completely disregard continuity, which is one of the big reasons why I don't read DC Comics these days. But man, it's kind of a bummer when some continuity comes along that should be completely disregarded just because of how crap it is. But then that's the continuity that's getting recognized, and these subsequent writers have to like work off of that, or choose to work off of that. So that's kind of lame. But that's one of the reasons I'm sure why we're seeing John Stewart in these civvies, you might say, like for so long. So because Phillip Kennedy Johnson has to clean up the big mess that Jeffrey Thorne left, which there's a lot more to it, a lot more stuff, not just with how the organization that's running the universe is structured and who's doing it, but also stuff personally with the John Stewart character that he has to like deal with. But anyway, long story short, no, I'm not reading the Green Lantern War Journal comic. I'm not gonna go out and here and say that it's bad, because I don't read it and I don't know. But the thing is, I'm not interested in reading it, and there are numerous points on why I'm not interested in reading it. But perhaps the one that's most directly, specifically related to this particular comic book, and not just a part of a bigger general thing that Phillip Kennedy Johnson and Montos don't have anything to do with, but related to the stuff that they do have to do with. The reason I'm not reading their comic book is because John Stewart basically is not in his suit ever at all, from what I've seen so far in the comic. And I'm sure he probably will be at some point, but they've gone too long into their run to where it's like, I have a problem with this, and I have a problem with it to an extent. I mean, it's like, you can do that and I'm okay, but I'm not going to be interested in reading your comic. I would like to see John Stewart as I would like to see him, which is, ideally Green Lantern in the suit with the power ring and the chest emblem. That goes into some other things. There is a lot that I can talk about regarding John Stewart, and I know I kind of alluded to that I was going to give people a rundown on, Green Lantern and where I sit with it, but I'm looking at my timer. We're already getting into 20 minutes. That's going to be a whole other maybe hour or something, I bet. So I'll probably leave that to another video. Um, I guess that can be like something that you can look forward to. I will talk more on Green Lantern and the other, and go into some of those other reasons on why I'm not interested in this, why I don't collect this character anymore, why I have no problem not breeding him anymore, why I don't really want to, um, because I know that's like really interesting for comics fans. A lot of comics fans have this, they've developed a reputation now, from what I've seen, where they're very forgiving, they're always hanging on even when they're unhappy, and they stick with things like forever even when they're not being satisfied. I'm not like that. Even though like I was very passionate about what I liked, and I usually am passionate about what I like, but when something, I just start not to like it anymore, I can really just drop it cold turkey. I don't really have a problem doing that. And John Stewart and Green Lantern and DC Comics in general is like something I've kind of dropped cold turkey. But as I said, like I don't read it, but as I said, I still do like look in on them to see like what they're doing. But anyway, I'll talk more about Green Lantern in upcoming videos. And be sure again to read my comic Zatswan Multiversal Guardian at my website zatswan.com. And I appreciate you guys hearing me out. And I look forward to talking to you again next time. Take care.